I have some questions if no one else has any.
I had one question, and it's interesting. Everybody who gives models, and I'm an architect, so I think visually and kind of in diagram, they're all hub and spoke. You know, Chicago's a half hub and spoke cut off by a lake. Raleigh's a hub and spoke. Columbus is a hub and spoke. I assume Sacramento is. My wife and I's metaphor for New Hanover County is, and like Chris said, all the development is at the edges, and we're shaped like a pizza crust. So all the development, everybody wants to be downtown, Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, Military Cutoff, but the town is in effect a sunken souffle. We've got suburbs surrounded by density. Is there a similar model for how to fix that? I mean, Mr. E.B. Station is a great idea to have in the middle of the city to kind of draw density, but density is a bad word here. I mean, we try to do dense projects, but like Chris said, it's difficult here. Is there another city that's a model for that? It's very strange.
Yeah, I'm sitting there trying to think myself of where I think anyone has done it the way you're proposing. You're always going to have the problem of sort of finding the city where kind of where you find it. Like you're saying, there's an orientation here that has always been about, let's have, again, single, family, low density, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm saying this again, it's not an easy thing to turn around. I mean, one of the reasons why a lot of the new communities that have the light rail got it was because the federal government was raised, just like you see now the battle that's going on in Raleigh over the federal government waving big dollars, saying, let us build you a high-speed rail. Everybody, whoa, look at that money. We can't pass up that money. Okay? I mean, in truth, that really is how they got a lot of these new communities to turn their heads to saying, let's think about this and get it and get on board, because they said, we'll give you a lot of money if you do this. Communities are going to have to, perhaps without that huge government incentive, begin to learn if you want to achieve the things I saw on that first board. The community is going to have, this group here is going to have to grow, and this community, you're going to have to proselytize everybody. Every time you see somebody, we got to get this together. Because if you don't, this is one of those communities, you'll find it very difficult. It's expensive at the waterfront, far less expensive out here. As long as I have my car, I can get down there. Very hard to overcome that without the city really changing its attitude and saying that one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to be that flat and souffle. I mean, that's, I don't really know how to tell you that. Somebody asked me earlier, we were having this conversation, they said, what is, and I said, very simple, it's leadership. Okay? You're going to have to begin to bring forth leaders who understand the vision that you have for Wilmington in 2035. And that you don't want Wilmington to be someplace that will look like it did in 1970. You want it to look like what you want it to be in 2035, and you won't get there without this community demanding that its leaders begin to look in that direction. And so the kinds of things that this planning commission did, TAC did, has got to start to integrate other parts of your community. You're going to have other people who are planning around those same concepts. And perhaps from that you will begin to see people emerge who folks here can support. Because they're hearing someone who's on that board or someone who's leading charge there is somebody you want to say, gee, I got to figure out how to get that person in a better leadership position for the community overall, because they really are thinking ahead. And if we don't think ahead, we will indeed sink ourselves.
Well, we've thought ahead in the transportation area because it's federally mandated. So, in reality, it's the transportation and the TAC effort that's driving the overall planning for the community. But the other elements of the planning have not been brought along from.
Let me say one thing to you. One of the things I discovered in doing this kind of work is that you would be surprised at how many different entities that are federally funded have the same comprehensive planning requirement. Most of them don't go out 20 years, but they do go out at least 5. What happens, unfortunately, is there's oftentimes very little bleed over between what's going on from somebody with a 20-year plan like this, and let's say, for example, because I know it's for a fact, let's say HUD has a comprehensive plan. They have to do every 5 years, and they have to update it every year. But I don't know, there's a lot of conversation that goes on between the local housing authority here, okay, anybody else who's involved with housing decisions here, and the transportation planning that goes on. I mean, somebody might have looked at it, or I might have, but nobody is saying, no, you guys get in a room. When I worked in New Orleans, we have this is when Mark Royale was mayor, we have what they called fusion meetings. And what he did was he made all of us get in a room and talk about it. And he did it, he spun it off of his housing. He said, we have a tremendous housing problem here. But you know what's happening? This is something you might appreciate. He said, but let me give you an example. Last week, our public works guys discovered there was a bad sewer in this location. So they planned in March to go in and correct that sewer. Unfortunately, our guys over here in Streets and Sand decided they need to put in a new asphalt. So they went and put new asphalt in, and 3 weeks later, they came and tore up the road to put in a new sewer. He said, that's got to stop. That's an incredible waste of our money. Okay? And so part of what he did was to say, I know that he felt his biggest problem was the housing problem they had there. Okay? They had 30,000 vacant or abandoned housing units in the city of New Orleans when he took over as mayor. And he said, I got to do something about that. My point to you is that you really do have to take something like this plan and begin to get other people who are making those same kind of planning decisions in other facets of the community to begin to orient themselves around that.
And I think you're seeing that now with some of these consortiums that are being developed. I know that we were just selected to receive a grant through a Sustainable Communities Initiative. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a little bit. And so some of these consortiums are forming around housing, transportation, that are looking to integrate the two as well as other aspects. But also it's important that we look at integrating land use and transportation. I know we've talked a lot about transit-oriented development, but trying to integrate the two has been very difficult. The Department of Transportation is taking a look at it, but it is like an onion. As you get to one aspect, there's other issues. And so they're focused mainly on the selection of school locations to develop some best management practices. But we're also going to begin some additional discussions on trying to integrate the two. We had a study that was conducted here in which we presented to the City Council as well as the County Commissioners, which is the Market Street Corridor study. When we began that process, that was going to be the model for trying to integrate transportation and land use planning. The Department of Transportation actually contributed all the funds associated with the completion. It took us a little bit longer than what we had anticipated, but we do now have a vision for that corridor. And I know Laura wanted to say something.
Well, I think one of the main disconnects that occurs is that we don't have anybody from Wave Transit on the technical review committee. And when neighborhoods come before that process, that technical review committee, both the county and the city, there ought to be somebody from Wave Transit there to say, here's where we need bus turnouts. Here's where we need a roundabout, but it has to be big enough for a bus to make the roundabout. And that needs to be a part of the approval process. When I first came on council, there was nobody on the TRC from transportation, period. And now that slot is taken care of. But that's where a lot of those decisions are made. When you've got a development, can you get fire, can you get police, can you get utilities, can you get water, can you get sewer, can you get transportation, and now we really need to make sure we can get mass transit into a development, and the only way to do that is to have a connecting spokesperson on TRC.
We have been trying to look at that. It's located on the bus route. We do have a representative, but we'll certainly take that back and relay that.
I had a couple things. One, I appreciate all your comments. I think it's great. There's a woman who I think was mayor in Canada for about 50 years, and somebody said, well, did a great job, where they said, well, what is your one regret? And she said, I did not think about transportation soon enough. So I agree, it's a very important thing. When we look at the trolley, we see that, I think Hugh McCrae actually was the one who was responsible for doing that, and have a real concern about the current role of development. As far as economic development, you know, we believe in entrepreneurial spirit driving a lot of this, and I think the attitude we hear a lot is what is being forced on developers, as opposed to some of the examples you gave of trying to do these things as a creative way to create jobs and make sure that we've got the workforce associated with that. So I'm concerned about how we move towards a place where it's more of a, a thriving thing to say, well, we're going to combine entrepreneurship with some of these, transportation initiatives to make that happen. So I'm curious kind of what some of your thoughts would be on shifting from this attitude of what's being put upon the private sector, as opposed to shifting it towards how the private sector can go back to its historical position of being a driving force in creating some of these things.
I think a good example of that would be Mayfair. When I first came here in 2001, although I didn't have a specific role as a named member of the technical review committee, I was asked to sit in on the review because the developers in Mayfair asked that public transportation be involved in that. So I think really the developers need to come to the government and say, how can you help us be a more livable community? How can you help us with some of the sustainability, with some of the transit-oriented development? So really what we've got to do is we've got to get out to the developers and say, here's what we can do to help your development. We can bring resources to you as opposed to just going and saying, if you want to develop this, you've got to put in a bus turnout lane, or you've got to put in bus shelters. I think it's really, we as government have to make it more of a two-way street and have to show that there are advantages to what we bring to the table as opposed to just mandates that we're throwing in front of them.
May I